But what I was alluding to there is that you are a part of this beautiful unfolding, and there is an intelligence behind it which has purpose for your life. So it's not all random what happens. It's unfolding with you for you. And it's not like it's unfolding for you, oh, I want a Ferrari. Where's my Ferrari? Right? No, no, no,
Right.
no. It's much bigger than that. Um, but synchronicities will happen, which allow you to grow, to unfold, or to challenge you to grow, right? Because it's not interested in you having a Ferrari, right? It's
Right.
interested in it is a much bigger picture, which it's looking for. But one place where you will find that, so when you talk about an artist, is in what I call your heart's desires. That which you are drawn to for the love of it, for its own sake.
Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art. Good day, listeners. This is CJ Miller, the host of the Spiritual Artist Podcast. I'm a little groggy this morning, dragging get up, but I think that today's guest is really going to wake me up with some really powerful messages. Let me introduce Ian Edwards. He is a UK-based sculptor and former world champion archer. You heard me right, archer, who has competed at the highest international level. So I think this is fascinating. I don't know if I've ever even talked to an archer before. He has experience in both elite sport and sculpture. So he's an artist and an athlete, which is really interesting mix. He explores the powerful connection between performance and the quality of our everyday lives. And at the heart of his work is a simple but transformative principle. We're going to unpack this. He calls it performance through presence. The understanding that true excellence emerges not from pressure, but from awareness, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know this is so CJ Miller. So good morning, Ian. How are you?
Hi, CJ. Yeah, all good, all good. It's the afternoon here, but good morning to you there.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you. So, I was really, it was so fascinating when you reached out to me, and then I went to your Instagram channel, and you have a nice Instagram channel. I'll tell my listeners, and I start seeing your posts, and I'm like, this guy is he's like the sculptor equivalent of me as an artist.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
and I love some of the things you have said. So let's just talk about that. Can we start with that? Um, First, you've obviously you were an archer first and then
No, 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 no.
oh,
Sculptor first. Um, I've sculpted all my life. I started sculpture when I was 16. I'm now 53 in March. So yeah, it's been a long time sculpting. And I took up archery for fun in lockdown, just in the
oh
garden.
that recent. That
Yeah,
recent.
yeah, yeah. And then we played in the garden all over lockdown. And then lockdown ended. We moved. When we moved, then I found an archery club. I then played around at the club. And then someone said, oh, we have some competitions coming up. Would you like to come along? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great fun. I got to know some guys at the club, just having fun and enjoying. Um, but by this point, saying having fun, I was enjoying mastering the bow. So what I love is to really dedicate myself to something so that I start to master the fine aspects of it, and I just love that. Yeah, just took it further. And then from there, I shot half a season. In that first half a season, I won a lot. And then I heard that you can shoot for Great Britain. And I was like, wow, that would be so cool. And I said to my wife at the time, you'd be good with that. She's like, yeah, if you want to do that, great, go for it. So then um, the end of that year, I got myself my bow, a long bow, had it made. And then my first season, I got out my little book. I wrote my intentions down, what I would like to achieve with the bow. And that season, I became the British champion. From there, then I got onto the British team, which is a big deal to get on to shoot for Great Britain is a big deal. And that was really hard to get there. That was not an easy journey. Um, then I made the British team. We went to Europe. We shot in Italy, and I was surprised how well I did. But something started to happen when the pressure started coming on in the competition. And I didn't see this coming. I didn't have this planned really. If I'm absolutely honest, I'll tell everybody I had it planned, but I didn't. That as the pressure came on, for me, it started to generate an intensity of presence. So as the pressure got higher, the quieter my mind went, the better I could shoot the bow. And so as you go through the tournament, it's then eliminations. From eliminations, it's the semi-finals. From the semi-finals, all of a sudden, I'm in the gold medal match. I think at this point, Great Britain hadn't won a 3D, this type of archery tournament for, I think, ever. I don't know. It was a long time if they had. It was huge. And there I was in the gold medal match. And as I walked out on the field again, the pressure came on of the moment, the nerves. Because literally, you will see guys, you'll be stood beside them, and you will see their leg will start to shake as the adrenaline, goes through the body. Um, but the interesting thing for me was, as I'd gone there, it was like the presents would arrive from the pressure, which I've known has happened to me many times before. This wasn't new at all, but I just wasn't expecting that in the competition, for that to happen. And so, yeah, and I shot, and it came down to I'm not being blasé with it, but it came down to the last arrow. And again, I just held silently in that moment of presence. And as I released that arrow, the second I released that arrow, I knew it had perfect flight. Boom, I won it on the last arrow. Um, Lovely, lovely feeling. Came home and then started to question, how did that come about? What was happening there? What was the mechanism that brought that about? And then when I started to piece it all together, I realized, yeah, that's what I've done all my life since I've been 16 years old. Well, so if I go right back to talk about presents, 7 years old, Mrs. Williams class, maths and English in the morning, arts and crafts, making things in the afternoon. Um, and I'm severely dyslexic, right? So the maths and English, didn't have a clue. I'd just sit there and pretend. Literally, I was like, just pretend. It was so, went completely over my head. I mean, severely dyslexic. So, but then we'd do the making things. And I fell in love, and I never forget, I fell in love with the state of mind that it generated. I had no name for it, but it was that beautiful place of timelessness, that beautiful place of no self-concept, no self, just me and the work, just this beautiful place of making. And then I was like, I always say, I was like a blind mole searching for that place. All through school, I remember searching for it. And sometimes I swear I could spot it that somebody else was in this state. Didn't have a name for it. Nobody spoke about it. No one said, "Oh, that's flow," or "That's presence." No one used that language, right? And to be fair, I came from a working class family, so again, mm, mm, mum and dad are really bright, but they just didn't have, that type of language. So we didn't speak about it at home either. And I couldn't read or write at all. So when I left school, I could only just about write my own name if I was relaxed. But when you're 16 and you can't write your own name very well, anyone asks you to write your own name, you're not relaxed, right? So,
Right, right.
right. So,
The act of them asking automatically, yeah.
yeah, it's like stuttering. You get put on that spot, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But if I was left on my own quietly in a room, yeah, I could get it 9 times out of 10. Um, so when I left school, I was very uneducated. very uneducated, because all of my school life, I had been in the class, couldn't do the work, but was there. I was there in the class. I went to every class, but I just couldn't couldn't pick it up. But verbally, I could understand. I'm speaking, I'm listening. Audible was great, but so much of the class really is okay. Now write it down. Now read this. Write down what you understand. Well, I couldn't read, couldn't write. Guess what? That's all missed. And then even with maths became a story. If Peter and Jane went down the road,
Yeah,
right?
really.
And then they bought this, this, and this. Well, you've lost me already because I can't read any of that text. So even maths, and you know, and I know, to be fair too, I didn't like maths, so that passed me by. So, but I had a thirst for learning, right? And that was interesting. And the other interesting thing was, I'm jumping around, but just while we're here, so I don't leave it, was that even at that age, I could sense my own presence. But I knew it was being explained to me, and I don't have to explain it to you either, very clearly. You're failing.
Hmm.
They can tell you, well done, Ian. That basically means you failed again. That's really what they're telling you. You failed again. Um, and everyone's getting their badges, gold badge, pen badge, whatever it is. Children are being rewarded for their ability. But I literally had no ability. So that reflected on my self-worth, because my self-worth, all self-worth, is I am because I can do, right? As a young child, it's like, look what I can do. I can jump off this step. I can do this. I'm capable of this. And as you get a bit older, I'm stronger. I'm faster. I'm cleverer. These are all how we build us. So I've got no abilities, um, but I'm feeling this sense of presence. I'm not feeling less than them. So when I'm stood opposite them, I'm going, hmm, but I don't understand. I have no language for this. I don't know what this means, but I know that I have a huge capacity somehow, but not in a measurable capacity, just a presence, which is sat in me, which was really fascinating. And then, um, yes, then I left school at 16. Um, I didn't even do art at school. That's how much, I spent my whole life doing art. That's how much it missed me. School missed me. Um, and partly because of my conditioning. I thought, it's going to sound absolutely terrible, but I thought art was for girls, right?
Well,
But that was,
there's that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but that's conditioning, right? Because of where we
Right.
grew, how I grew up, and so on. I was literally, a form. But I loved, though, making things with my hands, which was basically artwork. But I hadn't put all that together, and nobody else had put that together for me. And then my mum and dad had a haulage business, with trucks, right? And dad was like, you're coming to the family business, no problem, son. Of course, we've got you covered. We know you can't read or write, no problem. We've got this job for you. So I finished school on the Friday, started work for dad on the Monday. 1 week later, I'm sat at my family's dinner table, lunchtime, in the workday, and I've just started crying. And my mum says, "What's wrong?" I said, "It feels so wrong. This is just not me. I can't do this." And mum said, "Okay, fine. You don't have to work for dad. No pressure. You don't have to work for dad. What do you want to do?" And I said, "You remember when I was a young boy and I used to shave the bark off of sticks with my penknife?" Mum's like, "Yeah." I went, "Something like that." And she went, and she's looked and went, "My love, there's no jobs like that. That isn't a job. That's not a job." And I went, "Yeah, but it's something like that. It's like with my hands." And all I was really talking about, I want to be in that place, that state of mind where it's just me and the work again. And she's like, "Okay, we try woodwork. That's what you're saying, woodwork." And I went, "Okay, woodwork." And then she rings up, naturally. My mum rings up the nearest joinery company, and they make doors. And I'm like, "No, that's not it. That's machines, mum. That's machines. I know what that is. It's basically like a factory for making doors." I said, "No, it's not that." And then they said, well, there is a company who's just moved to the village next door to you from London, which is a wood carving shop where they carve wood, hand tools, only hand tools. I was like, ah, brilliant. That's it. So we went there. And when I walked in, it was a little bit like going home. I saw these beautiful hand carved things out of wood. And I don't know, something connected. What is that? I don't know. But intuitively, I felt it, felt really strong. And then they said, okay, we'll try him out for 3 months as an apprenticeship here. And the apprenticeship was in ornamental wood carving. So it was in early 16th century to late 18th century ornamental carving. So that would have been in the period of Grinling Gibbons and so on. So it was a certain period. And we have a lot of these old homes in England, National Trust properties, which have to be restored and so on. So I took on the apprenticeship, but it was the most beautiful thing because all of a sudden I could put all my effort into something. I could pour my entire self into it. And I was making progress. I was learning. And in this period around the artwork, I just was able to give 100% of myself to it. And it just soaked me up beautifully. It was just so special. It really was. But at the same time, something else happened. There was two guys who owned the business, the studio, Ben and Ray, and then there was about three other young guys working in there. But Ray was awoken, right? Spiritually awoken. Well, I'd never met anybody who's spiritually awoken, right? Obviously not, right? I'm really uneducated. I didn't even know, we don't have any language for this. I don't know what this is. But on the first day, we just start talking, and I spot it straight away I spot it actually in his presence when I first meet him. I could feel it coming off of him. And I was like, oh, okay, right. I've never met this before. It was, it was awe-inspiring at first because this was so different to anything I'd met before. And literally, like the first day, we spoke till 7 o'clock in the evening in the studio. And then my mum phoned the studio. She's like, "Where are you? You're meant to be finishing work at 5. What's happened? Is everything okay? Your first day at work?" Because I would cycle to work, and I was like, "Yeah, fine. No, we're just chatting." But then from then onwards, talk, 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 and I kept. And what would happen is Raywood was obviously teaching me the wood carving and so on. But then I would ask questions, and whilst we were wood carving, he would then teach me about self-realization. Um, it was I realize now, an incredibly fortunate position to be in, to have had that from 16,
Mm.
and um, very unusual, I realize now. And it was unusual in many ways. And Ray was unusual in the sense that a lot of people imagine spirituality to be like an Eckhart Tolle, this soft-natured, like Zen-like person. But Ray wasn't that. Ray had an incredibly sharp mind, but it was an incredibly fierce mind. So his he would use logic. You'd start from logic, and he would remove the pins, and you would walk with him. And as you'd go through it mentally, step by step, and then you would meet this place of presence where you were then beyond the conceptual mind. But we'd walk through the conceptual mind. But it was a particular way, Ray's way, not my way. um, and he was intimidating. That's what he was. He was intimidating with that fierceness and with the discipline which he held. But then he had 3, 4 young guys in the studio, and we couldn't listen to music. There was no messing around, and everybody watched what they said in front of Ray. And it was because you didn't want the wrong attention from Ray. You didn't want him like we were young. We were only 16, 17. So, we were up to all sorts. So yeah, so that was my early history into art. And then I stayed there for 4 years, studied, with Ray in both fronts and with Ben around the artwork. The wood carving wasn't enough for me in the sense of just carving ornamental work. I wanted to then express myself more, but whilst I was there, I was educating myself all about artwork, and I discovered Rodin, and all these beautiful Michelangelo, and all over this period. And I would then spend a lot of time then studying anatomy to be able to sculpt figurative pieces. And then I set up my own studio. Um, my mum and dad had a lean-to on the side of their garage, and then I put doors on that and put a little ceiling in there and lights, so I could use that as my first studio. And then that's where I started. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
It's just such an amazing story. And there's a lot of things in there to unpack. You are very fortunate. First, just that your parents were so supportive and are so supportive, how
yeah,
rare that is.
yeah.
Um,
Hugely supportive. Yeah, and so because it wasn't their world, but they just said, "Yeah, you do you," and they let me do me. And um, I don't say it wasn't challenging for them, and I still feel now it's been challenging because the spirituality became very intense. You know, as a young man, it was, and from the influence of being inspired and wanting to be a bit like Ray, like the
yeah.
intensity. Um, Around 19, I had, like a complete awakening where the mind and the presence consciousness separated, and would stay separated then for periods of time. And that happened over probably a course of 6 months of where it was like would just literally separate. Um, that happened around 19. The strongest time that happened, the first time that happened, it really hit me. One of my duties was I'd have to take the milk bottles to the end of the drive, and I walked the milk bottles up, and on the way back down, I don't know why, boom, it just hit me. And I looked down and I looked up, and it was like I'd just been born in that moment. Now, what made that happen in that moment? Because no crisis happening, no pressure. I was, happy as Larry, just going up, took the milk bottles out, come back down. And then I sat on the floor on the drive, and I picked up a stone, and I was looking at this stone, that morning. But that wasn't that unusual. I'd been listening to Krishnamurti every time at this point I was driving, and every morning I'd drive in, I'd listen to Krishnamurti on the way in, just to bring myself into that state of presence. I'd be seeking that. Like I needed it so much. I was a real thirst for that to get to that place. Um, and somehow by listening and listening, listening, and the work rate, it'd just loosen, 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 and then there it was. Yeah. And then, like I say, went out to the studio on my own, but also went into the world on my own. And then would hold that ground myself. Not easy. Not easy. Then it was then the real work in the sense of me being able to refine it myself for myself on my own, And there was periods where I didn't. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, but mum and dad were brilliant, bless them. They
Yeah.
went through all of that, and it makes no sense to them because it doesn't make any sense. Because if this isn't your reality, it's a concept. And it's a concept like any other concept. My dad would be like, "Oh, don't want to follow anybody else. What you want to follow? What you keep listening to that Krishnamurti for? You don't want to follow him. What you want to follow that for?" But I wasn't. I was shifting consciousness. It's something which doesn't make sense unless it makes sense. You know.
Uh-huh.
Um, do you see what I mean? So that was a strain on the relationship. Um, hmm,
I want to ask you a question. Well, there's a lot of questions. Okay, so um, it sounds like you went through and you started studying some of the what you'd call masters, people that are experienced with the presence and consciousness. How do you feel today? Do you feel, I want to share something that I'm just kind of starting to recognize is I've studied a lot and read a lot of different philosophies, and I feel like I'm moving past them and almost at a point now where I'm creating my own.
Hmm.
Do you feel that
Mm.
way? Do you feel, I mean, we study, we follow and study and learn all these things, but then we get to a certain point where maybe we go, okay, Ray's methodology doesn't really align with you, or it sounds
Mm.
like now it's a little different. You started going,
Mm.
huh, maybe that's a little too hard or whatever. Are
Mm.
you doing that? Are you creating your own?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That happened. That was in that period. So once I left the studio, a little bit of contact still, a little bit of understanding still, and then by the time I'm 25, 30, just no contact, no, just on my own. Already then developing my own thing. And Ray's was not mine. That became by the time I'm 25, very apparent, very different. Well, very, very different. I'm 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 a more um a lot more chilled. I'm a real easygoing guy. Yeah.
I
It's
would,
just just
I
in that.
think that when you start navigating presence, true presence, it is a consciousness of chill. If if you try to navigate, let me rephrase it. If you try to navigate presence with a goal in mind,
Mhm.
it
Mm,
to me, it undermines presence.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't find it because the mind is still seeking. Yeah,
The mind is still
absolutely.
seeking.
Yeah, yeah. No, so yeah, so in answer to that, did I find my own ways and then not need his particular way? Yeah, very early on, it's almost like another life that was, if I'm honest. That's like another lifetime ago, all of those things. Um, and as I've grown and got older, in my 30s, and particularly like I then, there is your lived experience as well, your own lived experience. And
Right.
then you meet that with insight, and then you start to see what is true in your lived experience. That's been very important to me. And as I've traveled through, and then how do I then share those insights with my family, with my boys, with my wife, with my friends, and how do I put that into a language which makes sense? Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully makes sense. And then I develop my own language for that to share it. Um, so yeah, so that has happened, and I still though love at times to go and read words of Rumi or something like this. I just like it. I just love to hear it. It's like, oh wow. But I don't study it anymore in the sense like that consistently. I'll jump around and like just be interested to see, oh, what that person saying? All right, that's interesting. And different podcasts, and um I've listened to your podcast, and I just hear bits. But it's not like I'm studying CJ in that sense. I'm not studying to find something out. I'm like listening, and then certain things will connect. I go, ah, yeah, 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 got it. It
Oh,
just like a little point in it as we travel. Um,
yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about this. Okay, so um, you said, and then you'll see something in it. So I equate it to almost like walking through the forest and collecting acorns. You know, um, you walk gently through the forest and oh, look at this one, and you
mm,
pick it up, and then you might pick it up and go, yeah, no, I don't know, whatever. Whether you feel it or you just look at
yeah.
the color or the composition, you put it back down. But soon you find, as you go through that journey of the forest, that you have these group of acorns, like you just said, your self life, your perspective, you know.
Mm,
Um, And so I want to read this from, this was in one of your newsletters. I actually saved it for, and I want to read it
Okay.
back and then let's unpack it.
Okay.
Okay. So you said you were talking about you sent out these wonderful newsletters, and listeners, he has beautiful sculpture. Check him out on Instagram. I mean, just incredible work. But this is what you had underneath it. This piece embodies the unseen intelligence that quietly guides your life. It speaks to those moments when events align not as a mere chance, but as a synchronicity revealing a deeper order at work. When you look back and connect the dots, you begin to see that life was never random at all. It was always carrying you toward a destiny, waiting for you to recognize it. So, back to my
Did I
metaphor.
write? Did I write that? Well, that's good.
Is that good?
Whoever wrote that, that's good.
Well, this is what happens, right? When you are in a moment of
That's
presence,
right. That's right.
when you are in a
Yeah.
moment of presence, that comes out, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
I
Exactly. That's my joke. That's I'm saying that's like exactly. That's my joke. Exactly.
seriously, I do
Um.
that. Ian, sometimes I'll go back and look at my book and I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
What divine intelligence? Now I want to pull
That's
out some
yeah.
words you said there. There's an unseen intelligence that quietly guides your life, revealing a deeper order at work.
Hmm.
So how would you share that with there's people out there listening to this that are artists that are trying to be artists. They're trying to be something. And of course I would just say, just be present.
Hmm.
Just be present with the paint. You don't have to try to be anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
How would you explain this
Yeah.
deeper?
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like this. So there's two parts to that.
Okay.
There's another part to that. So it's the that unseen intelligence is the unfolding of life itself. So the fact that the universe is here, the beautiful order, the beauty of it, wow, right? Is undeniable. You know,
I think it is.
yeah,
Yes.
the conceptual mind may say, "Oh, yes, well, this atom does this and this does that." Yeah, you know, whatever. Right? It's like there's such a little narrow mind. It's it really is when you look at it, just the beauty of a feather, the ingenuity of it, the beauty, the way the feather holds together, the way the whole thing zips together, how it holds itself together. Just the sheer, just look at any aspect of it. It literally shines through it. If you can leave your conceptual mind going, oh, that's a feather which belongs to an eagle, right? These are just thoughts. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. Those are thoughts, and there's this thing of beauty, right? So it's in everything, right? So it, but what I was alluding to there is that you are a part of this beautiful unfolding, and there is an intelligence behind it which has purpose for your life. So it's not all random what happens. It's unfolding with you for you. And it's not like it's unfolding for you, oh, I want a Ferrari. Where's my Ferrari? Right? No, no, no,
Right.
no. It's much bigger than that. Um, but synchronicities will happen, which allow you to grow, to unfold, or to challenge you to grow, right? Because it's not interested in you having a Ferrari, right? It's
Right.
interested in it is a much bigger picture, which it's looking for. But one place where you will find that, so when you talk about an artist, is in what I call your heart's desires. That which you are drawn to for the love of it, for its own sake. You didn't create that. You didn't, you discovered it, right? And it's naturally what's in you. It's naturally what you have enthusiasm for, right? And that is life calling to itself as you, because you are life, into expression. Because so it comes through your heart's desires. So I'm drawn as a painter. I am drawn to paint. Why? No reason. Just for the love of painting. Ah, okay. That's your That's your opening, right? So if someone has a frustration with painting, you said, oh, there's some painters there having frustration with this. The frustration is not with the heart's desire because it's there. It innately feels to paint. The frustration comes in when I say, it doesn't look like the way I want it to look like. The painting doesn't look like the way I want it to look like. And my life doesn't look like the way I want it to look like. Right. So in other words, I'm a painter. I want to do what I love, and I want to be able to afford a Ferrari. Right. I don't know why we're on Ferraris, but
That's all
Ferraris,
right.
right? But but you understand what I'm saying there is that the heart's desire is true. The frustration comes in when it's not the way I think it should be. I turn up with an idea. This part's correct. Allow it. Allow it to express itself. What do you want to paint? What do you love?
Mhm.
Paint it, right? Oh, yeah, but then James doesn't like what I paint. Okay. James is allowed to not like what you paint. James is James, right? This is your heart's desires. You do it because you love it, not as validation. Because what happens is, I call it the self-seeking mind. The self-seeking mind says, I want the world to tell me who I am. I want the world really to approve of me. So whatever I'm doing it for approval, right? So now this is no longer done out of paint for the love of painting.
Mm.
I'm now painting because some aspect of me is looking for validation in the world through the action of painting, right? And and that's great in the sense that if you want to frustrate yourself, suffer, because the world is, once it validates that and you go, oh yeah, I do this, then you start playing for the crowd and you play for the crowd more, and you play for the crowd more, you move further and further and further away from your own heart's desires, right? So what you've done then is you've you've orientated yourself to the self-seeking mind rather than your own heart's desires. If you do that which you love from your heart's desires, this is fulfilling. Why? Because it comes from fullness. It's not asking for anything, right? The
Mm.
self-seeking mind is always asking for the validation. Please, world, tell me who I am. That's how it arrives. So that comes in the form of status. I am what I have. I am what I look like. I am what I earn, right? So all of that is just the mind in this comparison of trying to become. And that will always kill that which you love, because that which you love will do it out of its own sake. It doesn't ask the crowd, how should I sing? It sings because it's full. And it's seeing those for what they truly are. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with the self seeking mind. It's perfectly correct. That is the nature of mind, but it can't be the leader. So, in other words, you live from your heart's desires and then you allow the mind to support because that's its rightful place. Then it's being used correctly. Oh, how can I improve my studio? Next day you come in, oh yeah, you have an idea. I know what I'll do. I'll keep the paints there like that. I'll do this like this. I set up my sound system like that. The mind starts going to work. Yeah, great. The mind needs a job. The mind is a self-seeking missile. It will always try to find the best and improve, but it has to be in service to your heart's desires, not the other way
So,
around.
so say that again because I think that is so, so key. Just say that
Yeah.
last line.
Yeah. So the mind is perfectly correct, but it has to be in service to your heart's desires. So your orientation has to be from your heart's desires, you live from there, and you allow the mind to support.
That's something I've really come to terms with in the last year or two. And I had some health issues, but that actually led me to this enlightenment, because like everything leads you to enlightenment. But I realized how, especially in today's society, we let our mind lead. We let our mind
Right,
lead.
right. Oh, well, because society is built on this. So society says, show me a glossy magazine and I'll show you a big car, big house, perfect looking
But
body, right? Why? High status. So our society values high status. All of these things which we are saying are high status. And that's the orientation. That's society because that's the level of consciousness humanity is at this time. And and that's, we have to travel through this ground. You have to be, first of all, there has to be a stage where one lives in that self-seeking mind until you outgrow the self-seeking mind. And the way that you really outgrow it is the self-seeking mind generates suffering because it's always doing for the outcome, and that's empty. So it doesn't matter even if you win in the end, even if you have the big house, the glossy magazine. Ask those people, you happy? No, because you don't live a fulfilling life. So you're obviously not going to be happy, right? Because all you've done is won the empty game, which is fine. It's absolutely natural, in the sense that we all have to travel through there, but we're being sold that that's the win. This is not the win. It can't be the win, right? It's obvious it's not the win. You know, we've all been there. You don't have to have the big house and do all that stuff to know it,
right.
because it's so empty, right? So then therefore it's all full of, then the media then is full of drama because for the self-seeking mind it's always drama, right? So then it's filled of drama that these people are doing. Do you know what they're doing now? What they was done, what they done. It's like, yeah, of course. It's it's all of that. So there you go. Oh, well then what do I do? What do I do? What do you like? What do you like for its own sake? It's that simple. Start there. Just
Even
start
even
with
even if it's taking a stick and just right?
shaving a stick. Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, because fundamentally, you know, it's that there is only, this is how I've, put it to make it really break it right down, is that there's only one thing of meaning in this world, and that's the quality of your life. And the quality of your life is in direct relation to how fulfilled you are. And fulfillment can only ever happen in the present moment, because there is no other moment, right? In the expression of your heart's desires. That's it. So then it becomes your daily practice then is to orientate yourself to that. That's it. The rest, it's not real. The rest is just another path to suffering because it will be, like a egoic pursuit. Using the word in the sense of the self-seeking mind, the self-seeking missile is always a self-pursuit, and that will just, because even if you win, you will still be empty because it wasn't true to who you are. That's the, because everyone thinks, oh, I'd be happy if I won. If I was on the glossy magazine, you know, if I had the millions, there's no fulfillment in things. The joy is only ever in the present moment. So all the rest are just ideas, being true to yourself. And then so do you know yourself? Do you know what you like? Do you know what you really like? Because it's so hard to even hear yourself. Because society tells you, oh, this is good. That is good. You hear so many stories of, I was a banker. I'm not picking on banking, the banking's great, right? I keep saying these things, but you understand, I'm just using them as
It's a metaphor, yeah.
examples. Yeah, metaphor, right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not picking
symbol.
on anything, and Ferraris are great too. I love Ferraris, right? But um, but what happens is you're in, you hear it when you're at school and you want that approval, do well, become the best. Oh yeah, I've climbed through the ladder. And then where am I? I've climbed this ladder, which I thought was success, which is based on society's idea of what success looks like. It was nothing to do with me. My heart called for something else, and that could be from artwork to science. You could have really been, I was in love with science. Could be anything. It doesn't actually matter what your thing is. That's not important. The only important thing is that you are able to hear yourself.
So what you
That's
That's the key. You know, I,
mm,
I I think this is really interesting when you talk about your life story. You know, you talk about way back with the challenges of in school and how you learned to practice that being in the moment, like just being
mm,
present, just being
mm.
present. That presence that applies to everything. So when you decided, oh, I want to be an archer, you just take that same skill set into that arena.
Yes, yes, yes. So performance through presence,
Yeah.
meaning that to be able to access your full potential in sports or in art, it requires presence because that then is the true one pointed focus. That's when you are actually completely present, right? And you see it with, there's been a big craze with it. With these extreme sports, with the motorbikes and with the skateboards and so on, where they or snowboarding, it's just blown up all of these things, and people are loving it because of flow, because it brings them into the presence, in this flow state, because the consequences are pretty harsh otherwise. Um, but that boom, that brings you in. Um, and what I've seen also is with archery is that the narrative, the mind wants to talk. Oh my God, and what if I miss? Or it's just anxious and it's anxious beforehand. So then when you walk out onto the field with all those anxious thoughts, you're nervous, and literally I stand beside people and their legs are shaking, going because of this, the anxiousness which has been built up. But there's no anxiousness in the field. So where is their anxiousness? In me, but where in me? It's in my head. So it's the story, the narrative I have about all of this. I'm at the Olympics. I'm at the World Championships. It's all an idea. No, what is actual? You're stood on the ground, breathe. Oh yeah, I'm here. What was going on was just a story. So if you get lost in that story, it will it will make you incapable of shooting your bow, right? It will, you won't know what day of the week it is, let alone able to shoot your bow, right? People say, when I get there, it doesn't feel like my own bow. I'm like, doesn't feel like your own bow, doesn't feel like your own arms. Right?
Right.
Right? Because you're so nervous. And we see it as well with the best case for it, which I see, and maybe I'm cruel to them, but in Europe and so on, is soccer is huge. These guys get paid millions, like literally millions and millions, millions, right, to kick the ball, and they've been kicking it since they've been 2 years old, right? And then they have a penalty, and they've got that huge goal in front of them, and everybody knows for the goalie to save the ball, he has to be lucky. He has to anticipate it because he has to dive before the ball's even kicked, right? So really, the chances of him saving the ball are so narrow. And you get this guy who comes up who's paid millions, who's been kicking the ball since he's been 2 years old, and he misses the goal. Why? He has more skill than is needed. His skill is through the roof. So it's not a lack of skill at this point. The narrative, the story has got so strong in his head that it's completely broke him down. The pressure, that pressure is immense. And I don't know how it is. It must be the same with American football in America and so on. But Over here with soccer, you miss for your team. You're not getting, oh well, don't worry, buddy. Your team is, and all the fans, it'll be heavy on you. So you know it. You've seen players be pulled apart before. So all of that's in your head. Can you, with this opportunity, with everything which is riding here, bring yourself into the present moment and just kick the ball the way you've trained that body to kick the ball a million times before, right? And then that's where it comes into the training of presence again and again, so that when it's needed, the pressure generates an intensity of presence. It doesn't drive you into anxiety and a narrative which robs you of all of your ability. So the narrative robs you of all your ability. The presence allows you to access your full capacity. Two different roads, two
Right.
very, very different roads. And the same with our artwork, right? Like we've, how long have we been doing artwork for? And some days I'm in here and I'm like, I just can't find it. And I'm probably in conflict about something else. And my head's gone
Taking your way.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And all I'm doing is really just most of what I'm doing is criticizing my own work. It's one of those. And then another day you walk in, you've set yourself up, you breathe, present, and it just flows and it's beautiful. The whole thing's good. Um, I have a saying, sometimes you're closer to the sun than other times, right?
Yeah.
It really feels like that. And those days when I'm closer to the sun, you know, um, it just the work happens and it's great. Those other days, you know, it's obviously somebody else's fault.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes
Uh,
I've learned it's just best to walk away from the studio, like if you're if you,
yeah.
just to, all you have to do is recognize it. My self-serving mind is taking me away. I'm just going to walk away from I'm not painting today, you know? You know?
Mm, mm.
Or else you'll go upstream and you'll be there for hours just
Oh.
like what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
spinning, spinning. That's why I
Yeah.
also feel like there is a timelessness in presence, that there really is truth that we step out of time and something beautiful can happen so quickly, right? When we're
Mm,
in presence.
mm.
And then we could sit there for weeks and months out of presence and
Yeah. And spin the wheels.
spin
Yeah.
the wheels. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. And I look, and I fall prey to that all the time. It happens. I'm sometimes I'm present, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm spinning the wheels, and that's why I joke and say it's somebody else's fault. Because that judgmental mind, going
oh
all over the
yeah,
place. You know. So that's that's what I call peak performance through presence. But then there's the everyday life of a high performing business person, in life, everyday life, where you don't have that one moment.
right.
It's many moments throughout the day. But again, what happens there is if you're caught up in the narrative, basically what I do says something about me. It describes me. My self-worth is tied up in the outcome. And therefore then I'm out of the present as I'm in the moment. That pressure, that constant pressure creates burnout. That constant pressure then doesn't allow you to see what needs to be done in the moment because you're caught in it. Uh, and then naturally, that pressure, that release there has to be some sort of release for that pressure. And it's very common. Then you see with the guys in the city, they drink. You got to drink. Got to let that pressure off some way because they're constantly under it because they're looking to push, but they're pushing. They've not been drawn because they're pushing to try and become more. Um, but still, with that, if you can find that moment of presence, just let some of the pressure off. Because we're not looking to be enlightened. This is, you know, presence in action. This is everyday presence. I'm bringing it there. This isn't a spiritual quest. What I'm talking about. This isn't becoming a monk, right? I'm not interested in becoming a monk. Trust me in the slightest. I do so much stuff. I love doing stuff, right? Right. That's what I love, right? I just come back from snowboarding. I love snowboarding. I love this. I just doing a lot of stuff. Um, so the reason why I make that point is because some people hear it and go, "Oh, spiritual. This is not me." But but what about just taking the pressure off for a minute, just being here now, being in a moment of joy, just allowing that little bit of gap for yourself. Yeah. Is that worth anything in your life? Yeah. Go straight back to it again. Keep driving afterwards, fine. But it won't own you quite as tight. Just allow a little gap to open up. And I see that has a real place in life. Um, and the same for the artist. Same thing with for the artist. We don't have to live like monks. We can create our artwork, do normal life. This isn't yeah, this isn't some sort of different way of living in that sense. Live everyday life, but with the orientation around hearing yourself, being here, not being lost in the self-seeking mind, and enjoying life, enjoying these moments.
I like what you're saying. I'm going to take a minute and take it one step further. Um, so when we do that, and you mentioned it in this paragraph, I get torn. I'll tell you, I'm working on my next book, and I
Hmm.
constantly want to explain this process, sort of that we're talking about, of, and I loved how you addressed this, that you said that there's some sort of life intelligence that is directing you.
Hmm.
I don't think you have to approach the process of presence seeking peak performance.
Hmm.
I think that all you have to do is let that divine intelligence, that intelligence, take over.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you stay in presence, you are saying, okay, I'm going to let that flow through me. It's like aligning to a radio station. And so you don't have to say I'm going to be the best dang song on the station. You have to say all I have to do is focus on being aligned to this intelligence. And when I'm aligned to this intelligence, beauty happens. It,
Yeah.
what kind of beauty is not for me to say. I don't even know. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
it will naturally unfurl. How do you feel about that? Do you think that, like, everyday person, this is a lesson that we think we have to fight and strive for life, but what if we just align and beauty happens?
Hmm. Hmm.
Life
Yeah.
itself. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have no objection to what you're saying.
Mhm.
I see it the same. Um, I think that at the beginning, it's hard to just find that beauty. So where do I start? So that's why I always say start with what you love for its own sake. Just start there to hear what you like, even. Do you know what you like? Right? Just be with that because that is self motivated from there. Because the other is always driven for self validation,
Mhm.
right? So when you say let it naturally come back, yeah, naturally find that place. But that is a doing. That is a practice. Sit yourself down, turn the TV off, breathe, just be here now. Just feel yourself, just literally, even your own body, right? You're sat there, a friend's talking. Just listen. See if you can just listen and be the listening itself as they speak. And what's happening in those moments then is you're not completely locked into your own thoughts. All of these are opening up a little gap. And it's because we're so wrapped up here. This has become our only reality. So when you say, allow the beauty to unfold and just be with that, I'm saying yes. And then I'm just saying, and how? So then someone says, but how do I do that? And these are steps you can take. Sit down, breathe in through your nose, be aware of your own breath, be aware of actually looking out of your own eyes. That'll do. One or two of those, place throughout the day, and allow that to open up there. Give it a little gap in between Instagram, this, that, Netflix, just give it a little gap. And in that little gap, the beauty then can start to unfold with you and you can align yourself to it. To when I talk about high performance through presence, to because I think maybe there's a question there, but I try and answer that. That's just to demonstrate that there's no place where presence isn't of greatest value. There's no place. It always allows you to reach your full potential. And because I do sports to help others hit their potential, I'm saying to them, you will find that it will go like this. You'll have equipment, you'll have skills, you'll have techniques, and sat at the top will be your state of mind. And your state of mind, the most functional state of mind you can have is presence. That's what I'm saying. It's worth going and looking to see. And then the same for the businessman and for anybody else who's trying to achieve, trying to make something come about. You'll find that presence will be the quickest way there. And like you've said as well, is in that moment of presence, boom, you have the answer. Before you were spinning the wheels,
Right.
right? And then, boom, there it is. Ah, a moment of inspiration for it. Yeah, so that is where I'd start. I think otherwise, if you don't start on what I call ground,
Mm-hmm.
the ground, it becomes a concept very quickly. Someone told me that if you do this, this, and this, you get this. Yeah, okay. But there's only one thing of meaning here, and that's the quality of your life. And the quality of your life is in direct relation to how fulfilled you are. Fulfillment can only ever happen in the present moment, and it can only ever happen when you're being true to yourself. We know that. That doesn't ever move. Okay, now tell me about this other guy, right? Because do you see what I mean? Because then it's a concept. And if you sit like this and hold like this and you do,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
many
no, I do.
ideas come about, right? And it robs you of the only thing you have, right? So it's trying to keep it concrete. I'm trying to build it off of at least one place, which is concrete. And then from there, we take steps. And that's why I say that which you love for its own sake is a beautiful place to start, because from here, and then people will come up with, I know people say to me, well, how do you make a living from that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You, that's what you will work out. And you might not make a living from it anyway. But that doesn't matter either.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
the it's about the being true to yourself. And you can do all sorts of jobs. And it doesn't matter in the sense that you can do that and be present too.
Mm.
You know, You, I, when I was younger, my dad would give me a job, say to me, "All right, okay, jump in a van and do one of these delivery jobs for me." And you can be present in the car driving along. Because there's many people doing delivery jobs now for Amazon and for different people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Dude, do that job. Listen to something which is helping you hear yourself, something which trues you up so you don't keep getting lost in yourself, something which is then it would be like a what would be classically called spiritual teaching. Fine. Listen to that, whatever it is, or your podcast, spiritual artistry, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Listen to this, something which aligns you, keeps you true to yourself. Do your job, build your skills. This is your life. There's nothing else here. This is it, right? This is the play, and then you build it and you become creative and yeah, improve your life. I'm not saying don't improve your life. I'm all for improving your life. You move the parts. You um, look, see what you like, move the parts, adjust it, create it to suit you. That's when you're being an individual anyway, because society says, oh, it should look like this. Well, I don't like those things. I like this, right? Some guy wants to live in the middle of nowhere on a mountain. Somebody else loves living in the city. It's what do you love? And it's being able to hear yourself to create your life around that which you love for its own sake. I've always had a lot of dogs. I've trained dogs, bred dogs in all different, for the police, for hunting dogs, all sorts of dogs. Train them, bred them, love dogs, right? Somebody else doesn't like dogs. Me, I love them. I've loved training them. Sold all of them. The dogs were bought, sold, trained, placed. That's me. Somebody else wants to just have a dog and have it at home to stroke the dog. That's right too. Do you see how what I'm saying is society wants to say it should look like this. And but actually it can look very, very different for each individual. What they like to do, where they like to go. I love the woods. My wife loves the beach, right? I don't mind it. The beach is beautiful, obviously, but you're not seeing me go to the beach out of my own choice. I go to the woods. I love the woods. I love trees. Um, so it's that. So you start to become creative and self-orientated, meaning truly selfish, truly, truly selfish, meaning truly acting from your own self, from your own heart's desires, and orientating your whole life around that, building your life like that. Um, and so I have a home, we have a studio in the garden, I have sculptures in the garden on display, people can come here. And you go, why would you want all that? I love it. Just love it. Love it in my studio. I love the fact that my house is just there. I love the fact that I walk to my studio, right?
I bet you do.
Right.
We talked about that.
So
So,
yeah, it's what I'm saying here is that so it's not about not building things.
right.
Because sometimes I hear in spirituality, or around these things, oh, humble. No, this isn't, I'm not enhancing myself with this stuff. I'm not saying I don't have an ego. Don't get me wrong. I'm a human being. I have an ego, all the rest of it, right? But I'm saying I built these things because I love them. No one ever needs to come here. In fact, very few people come here other than, you know, when they're invited here. No one comes here because it's not a show house. It's what I love. And that's it. Build that life around what you love. Build it true to yourself. That's fulfilling. Doing the work then feels great too. It's
Yeah.
that's it.
It's been a great conversation. We've gone a little over time, so I have to wrap it up. But I love how you start with the heart space and go from there. What do you like? And just follow that as a ground base. And you're right.
Mm.
And there is no judgment. There's no right or wrong. There's no, I always say there's no wrong in creativity. So, if you want to create a
Perfect.
house on the lake or a house in the woods or whatever, or no house at all,
Yep.
there's no wrong.
Yeah, yeah, right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Is there anything
Perfect.
else you'd like to
Perfect.
share with the listeners before we end this, or
No,
you're
no, no, no. Just like to say thank you very much for inviting me on and having the opportunity to chat. Been brilliant. Loved it.
I do. I love it. We could tease this out a lot actually, because you have such a good ground of and a similar, well, no, totally different, but yet similar end. I was
Yeah.
going to say we have a similar life, but totally different life, but
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
similar ending. So of
Yeah.
understanding, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Cool.
loved having you on the show. Thanks for reaching out. It's amazing. Listeners, check out, we'll put it in the notes, but Ian's sculpture is beautiful. You can follow him on Instagram. And he's always, and sign up for his newsletter on your site. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Anybody wants to be on the newsletter. Yeah. The newsletter has become a little thing now where I enjoy it every week. And I write about my insights of the week.
Yeah. See,
And
and
sometimes it's
you don't, sometimes you don't even remember them, but that was a good,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't remember any of them.
but it was a good insight.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for being on the show, listeners. Remember, I tried to formulate some of this in my book, The Spiritual Artist. You can get that on Amazon.com, or you can get Spiritual Parable, a book about stories that help you find that presence in your life. First thing in the morning, you read a story and just contemplate it. And those are both on Amazon. Follow me, stay with me, and follow Ian as well. And thank you. But most importantly, listen to your heart's desires. Let that lead you. What do you like? Go with that question and follow it. Talk to you soon. And thanks for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.